Hey everyone, it's Nikki. Welcome or welcome back. I have such a fun DIY for you today. It's super easy and so adorable. I can't wait to share this with you. If you're new here, I just want to say hello. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back to see me. And I just know that you guys are going to love this one. All right, let's get started. I get these socks in bulk on Amazon, and it's because I use them every single year to make these adorable little snowmen that we're going to make today. We're going to fill them with some weighted beads, and I know you already can see some of the snowmen we're making off to the side. They are just so adorable, guys. I love them. I make these every year, as I said, for friends and family, and it's always so fun to watch their faces light up. You can also make some scented ones by adding little sachets inside or just a few drops of essential oils. Just make it your own. I just eyeball how much I want for weighted beads. And, we can make any size snowman we like. Once I'm happy with the amount, I'm going to tie it off with a rubber band. But instead of leaving just the rubber band, I'm going right behind it with a chenille stem. And I'm going to wrap it around nice and tight. Just make sure that you do this, though, because that rubber band can rot over time, and we don't want beads spilling everywhere. We don't want to see our precious little snowman falling apart. You could also use thread here. I'm just doing whatever comes to my mind, and once it's secured really well, I'm going to stick my heating gun nozzle down inside and just add a couple shots of hot glue just to make sure it's sealed up nice and tight. To form my snowman, I'm going to take another chenille stem and divide the body so that way we have a head and a body. And just make sure that you make your head a little smaller than the body. And again, you could use thread for this part. I'm just choosing a chenille stem. I got this fabric at the Dollar Tree last year, and I'm not entirely sure the size. Maybe it's like 12 by 12, but I'm setting my snowman body on top and just trying to figure out about how much I want to cut off. And just make sure there's plenty of extra room because we're going to put our body down into this. So it's essentially going to be like a sleeve. We want to make sure that it's not too tight. So it's about 10 inches. And then once I have it all cut, I'm going to fold it over onto itself, and I'm going to run a bead of hot glue and just make sure to keep the fur out of the way so there's a nice seam that stays hidden. And you can bunch the fur up so that way no one sees where it joins. And then I'm going to use this upholstery thread and my upholstery needle, and I'm going to do a simple running stitch. It's just going in and out all the way around. And then make sure you leave a couple inches of thread at the beginning, because once you reach the end, you'll pull on both threads and draw it up nice and tight so everything is secure. And if you're not a sewer, you can totally do this the same way we did the body. Well, similar. Just gather up the fabric nice and tight and maybe use some hot glue to help you keep the fabric in place, and then either tie it off with a thread or a chenille stem, and then just add probably more hot glue just to make sure everything stays gathered. And I mean, I haven't tried it that way, but that's the only other way I can think of doing it. And just pull that up nice and tight, and then I just tie it off in several knots. I forgot to mention I didn't glue all the way up the side because I know we still need to slide the body inside, and I wanted to make sure that there was plenty of room. And you'll see that more clearly in the next step, but I'm also adding a bit of hot glue on the inside where it's gathered just to make sure everything stays together real well. And now I'm going to put Frosty's body into the sleeve that we made, which is his exterior. Now, this fabric is so nice and soft, and I think that's another big reason why I love these snowmen. Not only do they look super cute, but the texture itself just feels comforting. You can use them as like a sweet little shelf sitters, but they're also something that you can actually cuddle, which makes them feel even more special. If you have any openings like I do here, again, just run a little bead of glue and then fluff that fur right up just to close it up nice. And you don't even know that that seam is really there. I mean, you can see it, but it's minimal. And I'm going to do the same thing to the top. I'm not going to run the bead of glue all the way to the top because we're going to cut off the excess here in a second. And I'm going to gather it up and just cut off. So it's essentially like a 10 by 10 size, if I could guess. And we're going to do the same thing as we did to the bottom. I'm going to do another running stitch. And just repeat the same steps. Let me know, do you sew or have you ever sewn before? Even if you have and you don't really love it, I think this is something that's pretty tolerable. But yeah, I'm a sewer and I do have my own sewing machine. I don't use it as often as I'd like because I'm usually busy with other crafts, but I really do enjoy sitting down and just making something like a pillow. I've even made teddy bears and I've done that since high school. And I still love creating and sewing. And I've also sewn my own drapes. Actually, most of the drapes I have in my house, I have sewn myself. But my point is, this is an easy project, and I truly think it gives such a nice high end look without being complicated. So here we have his body all made, and now we're gonna just shape him. We already have the basic form from the sock, so I'm just feeling where I want that separation and using that same embroidery thread to tie it off nice and tight. And I'll do several knots here and trim off the excess and then add just a tiny dab of hot glue over that knot. I just want to add, when I first started making these, the fabric came from Etsy, but the fabric that I got on Etsy is pretty much identical to what I got here at the Dollar Tree. You can't really even tell a difference. And just like that, he starts looking like a real little snowman coming to life. All right, next we're going to take this black felt and I'm gonna cut 5 squares out of this, probably about 1 by 1 inch squares. And you could totally cut circles. I just chose to cut squares because we're gonna go behind with a little bit of thread and shape it into a circle. And here I'm going to do another running stitch. This needle has, I think, some glue stuck to the end of it, so I'm having a bit of resistance here. But you don't have to do the buttons and the eyes this way. You could just cut little circles and glue them right onto your snowman. This is just how I prefer to make them. And this is merely inspiration. You can take this project and just make it your own. And once I have my circle complete, I'm going to trim off the edges here and then pull it and gather it up. But first, I'm going to add a little bit of stuffing here that came from a pillow. And again, draw it up nice and tight. Tie it off in a few knots. And to finish it off, I'm just going to add a tiny dite of hot glue to the center, pinch it up and hold it there just for a second. And then I'll do a little bit of trimming to tidy everything up. Just be careful not to trim too low. You don't want to cut into or disturb the stitching and undo all that work. And that's it for the step. He's all cleaned up and everything's coming together beautifully. And I do 2 of those. All right, to show you another option for making your snowman eyes and the buttons, we're cutting 2 small circles and we're going to add a dot of hot glue into the center of each of them. And then we're just going to set those off to the side. All right, I think these are called hair curlers, and I got mine from Amazon. I know they have them at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut this one in half, but you don't necessarily have to. You can keep them whole and simply take the same fabric and wrap it around the hair curler. Now I'm going to run a bead of hot glue along the side and set that hair curler right into the glue. And then just hold that there for a second. And then I'll start rolling the hair curler and the fabric up nice and tight. Then adding a little bit of hot glue as I go. I did cut this fabric a little shorter than I would have liked, but I was still able to gather it up nicely. Just be mindful not to get the hot glue on the fur, like I mentioned earlier. Focus mainly on the curler and then pinch it up nice and snug. And we're going to repeat this same step for the second one. I just want to say while you're here, if you're liking this video, I would love for you to subscribe. I am working hard towards my goal of 2,000 subscribers by the new year, and I would just love to have you stick around. And these are real quick to make. I think it took me about 45 minutes to make this one, but you could also start an assembly line and make a bunch of these. These would be great craft fair sellers. Now this one, you can see I got it a little longer than the other, but surprisingly, they look the same size. I was surprised. Just fluff it up. There, now we have both of his arms. And this is that same fur fabric from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to use it to make little mittens for our snowman. I'm going to start by cutting about a 5-inch strip. And I'm going to set his arm down into this hot glue here. And then I'll just cut off the excess. And I'm going to add some more hot glue to seal it up. And just like that, he has a tiny mitten. I'm going to run some hot glue along the sides just to make sure everything's nice and secure. And if you don't have one of these little desk vacuums, you can find them on Amazon. They're an absolute lifesaver for cleaning up fuzz and little bits. And once his mittens are made, we're going to create a little nose, and I'm taking this orange Chenille stem and wrapping it around one of my upholstery needles, and then carefully pull it off. And once I get the size I like, I'll twist the end where the tip of his nose will be and just set that off to the side. Now we can start assembling our snowman, and I like to separate the fur as best as I can so that way the pieces sit in nice and flush. And once I have placement figured out, I'm going to add a tiny dot of hot glue and press that button right into it. Just make sure to push that hair out of the way the best you can. And then I go around and add some more hot glue just around the sides, pushing the fur out of the way as I go to keep everything nice and neat and tidy. And then fluff the hair up around the sides. All right, for the eyes, we're gonna add some more hot glue. You can see that hot glue is nice and dry, so we're gonna add some hot glue and just pinch it up nice and tight. Just hold it there for a second, make sure that it stays put, and then we can trim it up a little bit. So that you could totally do this for his buttons, and these are a little smaller than his buttons, as you can see here. And this is actually a lot easier than doing it the sew method. But I just wanted you to see a little variation here. You know, you could just do it however you'd like. We're going to do the same thing for the eyes. Separate that fur. And then just add a dot of hot glue. Press that eye in and hold it there. And we're going to do the same with the second. Add his little nose and push that hair out of the way. Add some glue and hold his nose. And you could totally glue his nose sideways if you'd like. I just like it sticking out. I think it's cute. And I'm going to take some of this blush, add a little pink rosy cheeks. Then we're going to take that same felt and I'm going to cut him out a little smiley mouth. Before I glue this down, I'm going to separate the hair. Exactly where his mouth is going to go. That fits perfectly. I just messed up the hair a little bit, so I was making sure it was separated good. And then adding a bead of hot glue and then setting our mouth down into the hot glue and holding that there for a second and fluffing the hair up around him. And look at how cute he is. Add a little more blush. Now we're going to glue his arms. So we're going to flip him over. We're going to use some hot glue for this step too. And these wire hair curlers are great because you can, make him look like he's waving, or, you could do whatever you want with his arms. But I love these hair curlers for that purpose. So just running a bead of glue right where his head and his body meet. And hold that there for a minute. All right, this blanket I've had in my stash. I use it for all of my snowmen, so we're going to make them a little scarf. And just trim it back. So I'm tying it off in a knot. Then I'll add a little bit of hot glue. And these hats I get on Amazon. I buy these in bulk because as I said, I make these every year. So once I figure out how I want his hat on, it's a little off to the side, running some hot glue around the rim here and just set it onto his head and hold that there for a second. All right, I'm gonna have my snowman have some feet. So I cut another square. Well, it's more like a rectangle. And then folding it over on itself, and I'm gluing off the front here, like the tip of his toes. I'm not going to glue the other side just yet because I wanted to see like how I wanted his feet to be. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stuff his feet. So for now, we're going to glue those at the tips, and then we're going to glue them to the bottom of our snowman. And just figure out how you want your feet. I don't want them off to the side too much so he looks like a penguin, but I don't want him sticking straight out. So I'm choosing to put them off to the side a little bit and gluing them. And I like how they look, so I'm not going to worry about stuffing them. Just make sure you have them nice and secure. So because we're not stuffing them, I'm gluing them off, closing up that end. I'm going to take this garland. I get this on Amazon as well. We're going to wrap this around our snowman's hat. Instead of gluing it on the back, I'm gluing it off to the side here. And this is wired garland. It's real nice. I use it for a lot of projects, and it's something you can use year round. And I'm adding a little bit of heat to it because it does kind of fluff up that greenery. Just don't add too much. And I'm just showing you an option here. You can use these little red pom-poms. Those are super cute. But I'm going to add these berries. And I thought they were perfect because they're already glued to each other. And I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue and set those berries right into my hot glue and hold that there for a second. And that is it for our little snowman. I love him, and this is something I look forward to every year. It's one of my favorite things to make. What do you think about him? And this is his family. These are all my original snowmen that you see off to the side here. So this one next to him is the little boy, the dad, and the mom. And I have a home for this sweet snowman. He's actually the biggest one that I've made. I just think they're all so sweet. And the dad is my very first snowman. And I've had him for a very long time, and I always bag them up in Ziploc freezer bags to keep them nice and clean. And Mama, I added some real eyelashes to her, and her eyes are closed, as you can see, like she's smiling and all happy. I hope you enjoyed this project today, and I hope I gave you some inspiration to make your own little snowman. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. Until the next one, bye.